welcome back to the T-Bird podcast, coming to you on March 30th, 2025. It's a beautiful 6-3 day. The energy is in a nice alignment to get some streaming done, and I've got a very special treat for this podcast. For today's stream, I've got a very special guest from the Hex and Pulse Chain community who has contributed his more than his fair share for the community over the many years, over the whole journey. And it's definitely an honor to have him on stream with me, to have a conversation with regard to everything that's going on with the Hex and Pulse Chain ecosystem, Richard Hart, crypto in the macro, might be some TA going on as well, maybe bring in a bit of numerology and astrology as well, as I like to do. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring him up on stage and we can get it going. Welcome to the T-Bird podcast, Tobiwan.
Hey, looks like you got me unmuted. All right, cool. Hey, what's up, man? I'm happy to be here. You have to give me a moment to get my bearings. I took a nap. It's around midnight my time, and I didn't realize we could do it earlier. If we could have done it earlier, I would have been all about it. But it's like I literally laid down for a nap around the time I got your message, or when you sent your message. I'm like, fuck, and but I'm
that's good. You've had a little bit of a nap, so you've got a little bit of rest in. So,
but I just woke up, and then we've had an issue for the last 24 hours or so where our water heater the pilot light had gone out. Luckily, it was nothing catastrophic, like it ruptured, which we had that happen before, and it flooded part of our house. So I'm like, oh my God, I hope it's not that again. So I go light the pilot light. I do that. My fiance's yelling at me because she needs hot water, because women. And then also, I just realized myself, like men, we also like hot water because I jumped in the shower to kind of freshen myself up. And boy, howdy, a cold shower will definitely wake your ass up at 11:30 at night. So I had a cold shower, and then I ran outside to look again, to go around to the mechanical room, crawled down there, looked at the pilot light, and the burner's on. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe my thermocouple's out and it's doing weird shit. Hopefully I don't have a leak under the house. But enough about my personal dilemma. How great is crypto right now?
It's crazy times crypto wise. People are really taking hits out there. Everything's looking, considering like where we're at in the context of the crypto, the 4-year crypto cycle, where we've already crossed the chasm of the first financial quarter of 2025. And typically in the context of the cycles, we would normally be sort of in overarchingly bullish territory across the board, crypto wide.
Typically, like in previous cycles, it's like Bitcoin's pretty much topping at this point, or at least it's on its big run up. Yep. And then, the altcoins and ETH is starting to move a little behind it, and, and everything's lagging. So it's just, so I get where, the sentiment, because I think that's really, really, really more what we're talking about is like the sentiment of the community, because we can't do anything about the rest of it, right? It's like the cycle is going to cycle. It's going to happen when it happens. So for me, I feel like it's more of a processing of like trying to understand the behavior that we're witnessing. And, so I understand it. It's like, we waited 4 years. Some people 4 years is a long way to wait. And it's a long time to kind of be quiet and be cool. So people get distracted. They see shiny objects, it's like, hey, maybe I'll run and do that. We had famously like 3 days, I think it was, or maybe 2 days before the launch of the highest of stakes, which I was proud to be a part of. We had our premiere in Miami. We get the SEC notice that they're coming after Richard, right? And talk about like just a big punch in the nuts, because we put a lot of money into this thing. Got talk about being 99% down. Well, for those of you that might want to know, that's about where we're at with the movie too. So it's like the revenue's been dog shit. Like what has been made has gone to distributors and stuff. So
was there an actual like legitimate like blueprint in place for a potential sequel down the line if the market wasn't as wrecked as it is now?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. There was, not a full-on blueprint. It was more of like a rough sketch, like an idea. We talked about possibly going episodic at one point and doing like a series, and then maybe having, even breaking the movie up like at one point and not doing it as a movie, but doing it as like a little mini series, and then possibly a follow-up season 2 type of deal when we were marketing it, when we were trying to get somebody to pick it up. And then the market kind of fell out with like Netflix and others for documentaries. Like documentaries were hot, right? Like, you could throw any fucking documentary up there and Netflix would give you money up front to make it because they were such a big ticket item. And then by the time we got ours done, the market had pivoted and it was more about series because people wanted to binge watch a series, right? So all the money for documentaries, like single watch documentaries, went out the window. And then all the money from Netflix and the big ones like that started getting funneled toward episodic, things. So we kind of missed the boat on that. We talked about retooling and like, hey, maybe we go back to the editing room and break this movie up into segments. So obviously we didn't go that route and thought, fuck it, let's roll it out. Let's go live. Let's go put it out on the streets where like people like make like basically every showing like a meetup, right? And that's where we got the idea of like people streaming from their own towns where the movies were being shown. So it was super fun. And it's like, cost effective. No, like we literally, I don't know if I shouldn't get in any trouble for this, but none of us have seen a dime from it. Like there's a little bit of money like in the coffers for whatever we do next, but there's been no zero distribution. So I'm actually down harder on the movie than I am on Hex. So, but yeah, I guess my point is that we've had not only 4 years, which is a long time to wait between cycles, especially for people like you, T-Bird. It's like, I don't know, like how long, like when did you get into crypto?
Okay. So just an overall summary of my backstory. So I properly started dabbling into crypto around the halvening in 2020.
Okay.
At that point, I'd never heard of Richard Hart. I've never come across Richard Hart before, which I thought was also unusual because I've been following already a lot of alternative channels on YouTube and other platforms where he actually got interviewed by some of them. For example, Max Kaiser. I was following Max Kaiser quite aggressively back in the 2011-22 period of time. And I recall when I first discovered Richard that I realized that he actually went on Max Kaiser. So that's just one example. So anyway, long story short, discovered Richard Hart and the Hex community at the same time towards the end of 2020, like late October, early November 2020.
So you, like right before the big halvening? Or right around that time?
Yeah, right before the big payday.
The big payday, yeah.
And even before actually discovering the existence of Richard Hart after obviously the systematic gatekeeping by all the other influencers in the industry for the first 5 months of initially getting into crypto. That was pretty frightening. But at the same time, it was a wake up call because when you're a new investor, you don't have that much financial IQ, and you come into crypto, it's like it can be pretty daunting.
Because that's a wild time to get in. I mean, like as I'm thinking about it, because I'm equating it to my own experience. It's like I got into crypto in general like in the summer of 2017. So I had enough time to kind of feel that building, ebb and flow of things, and just rapidly try to learn. And I was invested primarily in Litecoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin when it ran up to its all-time high of 20,000. And then I round tripped it. I went over the top and back down, bought in more on the way down, and wrecked myself hard. And then I was like really struggling to learn as much as I could to try to dig my way out when I discovered Richard Hart in around, when was it? Probably May of 2018. So it was several months after the bull market had peaked. And, so I got in then. So it's like I was able to kind of see a wave up and then down and then a long slow down, and then found Richard in the middle, and then like kind of gradually ground up through 2020 leading up to the big payday. And then we had the big spike down after big payday. So for you to get in right at big payday, like you had no idea, did you? Like, I mean, you didn't like real life experience of like what that felt like to be in something.
No, I had no frame of reference in the context of cycles and wow. how algorithmic the nature of cycles actually are in crypto. But yeah. I mean, those a lot of things in life and financial markets across the board are dictated by cycles as well, and that's stuff you learn along the way too.
But the emotionality of it, like, I mean, I'm sure
the reflexivity, and emotionality of the cycles themselves, and and I had some like
if you didn't get shaken out, like you did, like I'm curious what you felt like if you got in right before big payday.
Yeah, so I experienced the full euphoria at the top.
Yeah, because I mean, that was after that. But what I'm saying is that first thing after big payday where we dumped, like where it was just like that precipitous drop off to like 002 or something, whatever, or 00.
Well, I think a lot of people who are already in solidly up to that point and were around for a while would have been shaken up by that event. Yes, but me, not that much.
Because you just gotten in, so you didn't realize.
I was like, oh, sweet, this is like a proper dip. I can actually accumulate a little bit more on a lot lower range, which is great. Which is what I did.
So cool. So then, as I'm trying to kind of understand your own journey in Hexaco here, so you were able to like DCA and keep getting in as we started that crazy 10,000x run, more or less, right?
Well, mostly before the run actually started, which was the beginning of May.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's like, because if you got in on October of 2019, you were there right before big payday, so you were able to get the euphoria, because there was like all this talk. I don't know if you remember. I remember dollar cost crypto in particular. The big excitement before was, will Hex get to a penny? Well, it got to a penny, and then dollar cost was like, dude, it's going to 3 cents. And so everyone was like, 3 cents. And then it's like, it never quite got there. And then we, rolled over, dumped hard. I think it was 0022, which scared the fuck out of a lot of people, including me, because like right when you were getting in, I was dumping all of my Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin to go all in on Hex. So I had done pretty well to dig myself out of the hole I had gotten into round tripping on the blue chips, if you will, of crypto at the time. And I had slowly worked my way in from day 2 of the Hex launch. Didn't put enough in early. You know what I mean? That's how it goes. But I started off on day 2 and put it in all the way through. And then at big payday, I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm selling everything that's not nailed down. I got rid of all my Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum. And we can look on my charts later if you want, but on my chart, I literally have a little note that I've left there ever since then. And it says with a question mark, begin bull run. And it's because I had a pattern on Bitcoin. And it's like, if we break this, that's the beginning of the bull run. And if you look back right there at the end of October, beginning of November, when we had big payday, that's when the breakout happened for Bitcoin. So I sell it all, Hex dumps, and Bitcoin goes to the fucking moon. So I was like shitting bricks, like, oh my God, was that the worst decision of my life, or what the hell? So I was having a different emotional experience than you were. But then like from May on, like when we really started to run, boy, people that weren't around, I don't think they understand what that felt like.
But like everything is great in hindsight, but like of course, the amount of understandings that I have now versus then, if I could take what I know now and take it back to that time, my decision-making process would have been vastly different.
Absolutely.
I'm still happy with the decisions I made, and I've managed to grind myself through the entire bear cycle. But I definitely made it harder on myself more than I needed to make it on myself. Yep. So,
well, for people that might be tuning in, I'm assuming most people that are tuning in know you. But for people that might be tuning in that aren't as familiar with you, it's like for any Tobiwan TA fans, or maybe you just saw my link and not his, and found us and tuned in. Actually, I need to share that out. But because I talked about it earlier, but I didn't share the actual YouTube link, but I will here in a second. T-Bird is, as the name indicates, as real as it gets. And I love this dude. It's like, we've never met in real life. I told him before we got on stream, in our chats back and forth, when I was so excited to hear that he was doing the podcast. I always want to go to Australia. When I go, he is the number one guy I want to meet. And it's like, I told him already, I'm going to give him an uncomfortably long hug because it's like, I just feel a kinship with him. If anyone pays attention to our interactions, we both love the movie The Cable Guy. It's like really dark, silly humor. And there's this scene with Jim Carrey where, Matthew Broderick, he's just tormenting the guy, and he goes to see him in prison. And there's a scene where it's like he pulls up his shirt and he's like in the visitation room at a prison. And he's like, "Oh, Billy!" And to me, I think that's one of the funniest things.
It's been the running joke between us for years.
For years. So if anyone ever wondered why we always comment that to each other, it's like somehow we found some common ground in that with our sense of humor. And then I've loved how he's navigated. I mean, especially now knowing it's like, I don't think I knew that you'd only been in this long. I thought for some reason in my head, I'm thinking that you had been in since like 2017, 18, like when I got in at that cycle. But knowing what I know now, it's even more impressive. Like what you've been able to do to like process what's going on, navigate like Tangang and fucking pDAI and like all the other shiny objects.
And we can touch on some of that stuff.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's, whatever you want to talk about, I'm down. But it's like for you to be able to navigate that stuff in the way you have with not only very intelligent tweet. I mean, like, and I'm not just blowing smoke because I'm on your show, but it's like, you're one of my favorite people on Twitter. It's like, I feel like you always bring fire content. It's like, and with a sense of humor, like you're never shitty with people. Like, I mean, if you are, I've missed it, or it's tongue in cheek. And like, it's, it's tempered in such a way to where it's like, you get your points across and the integrity just comes through in the stuff that I read that you post. And, and we've all talked about things that aren't RH products. You were around long enough to know RH's big no was like, don't talk about anything that's not Hex.
Yeah. But then when Pulse Chain launched, the paradigm shifted, and then there's all of a sudden there's a huge amount of gray.
Yes.
Which is, I think, in a large way is what's caused all kinds of fragmentation in the community over the last couple of years. Because you'll have the group of people that are just 100% hardcore RH core tickers only, nothing else ever. Then you got guys like me that's like, always Hex RH tickers, but a little bit of room to talk about stuff that's launched on Pulse Chain itself. Right. But whether it's the actual P tickers that got forked, some of the P tickers that got forked over, or some of the sub community stuff like Tangang, some of the stuff that the fair launch coins that they launched along the journey, and it really has been like a roller coaster ride of different sub communities and different vibes that have emerged as a result of how things have generally played out since Pulse Chain has launched. And people have been looking for all kinds of solutions to the bear market sentiment overall, and just quickly, I really appreciate all your kind words regarding my activity on Twitter, and I've been at it day in day out for years, and more than anything is just because I'm passionate about this community. I'm a passionate supporter of Richard Hart and what he's built. More so than just about, because ultimately with someone like me, if it was purely about the monetary aspect, I would have been gone a long time ago.
Right.
I wouldn't be here. So because
did you you had to, right? You tweeted out a link to the show. Here it is. Okay, I see it on your Twitter here. Let me reshare this. Cool. So this will be. So they're actually. You're simulcasting it to X, so that's cool.
Yeah. So I've got it streaming both on Twitter and on YouTube.
Okay, cool. Because I'm gonna tweet it out both ways. Because some people, I know me personally, it's like I like it when it's on YouTube because it's easier for me to get on a television. So if it's just on X, then especially if it's a longer, and boy, this could go long because I'm a talker, so you're going to have to shut me up at some point.
Yeah, that's all right. I mean, I generally
hard to
keep
watch on your phone. You know what I mean? Like for me, it's like I can't watch a 2-hour thing on my phone. It's like
I mean, I'll generally try to keep streams to within an hour if I can. But like with depending on the dynamic, I can there's a little bit of leeway.
We're not going to do like an epic like 4-hour stream. You can do my chart. We can like really go deep on everything. No.
I mean, we can do a solid stream, but
I'm just busting balls, dude. It's fine.
I mean, more in general. So.
Yeah, I'm way too caffeinated for this time of night. It's like I had a little bit of coffee before we came on because I'm like I didn't want to be a dime.
I've got this really unusual level of immunity when it comes to caffeine and coffee. I can drink coffee any time of the day, like even before even like late at night, and it won't keep me up. I'll still pass out. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that's about, but. So let's quickly touch on. I'd like to know your thoughts on where we're at with regard to the whole pDAI fiasco.
Oh wow, yeah. It's like I don't know. I mean, for those that maybe tuned in and are watching, that also watch What the Hex. I mean, typically it's like I'm a cheerleader, right? It's like I'm optimistically, nauseatingly optimistic, right? It's like I'm always trying to show the middle path and the bright side of things. And I know how annoying that can get. I've got friends that are like that too, and it even bothers me. Like, dude, just be pissed, like just be upset, And it's like, and they're just always spinning it to find a silver lining. And I know that can get irritating. But when there's so much negative, it almost triggers more of that in me to like try to be the guy that's like, hey, I'll be a clown and make you laugh. It's like, I'll try to get you to see how like, it's always darkest before the dawn, and I'll bloviate in my own way. That can be bothersome. And then also because I don't want to upset anyone, because I feel like you really lose your opportunity to influence someone if you come at them too aggressively. The example I gave on What the Hex Thursday was during the elections. If you happen to be on Team Biden Harris, and I came to you and said, hey, you fucking idiot. It's like, don't you understand? It's only Trump that can make America great again. It's like, they're going to tell me to fuck right off. And the conversation's over before it begins. Whereas if I go at them, understanding their position, keeping the dialogue open, then maybe I have a chance, an outside chance of like persuading them to see like why I think this other thing or this other path.
It's the old honey traps flies better than vinegar.
Yeah, exactly. So that's always kind of been my MO. It's like I always hated the word manipulation. I preferred the word persuasion. So it's like, if I can persuade someone to be like more aligned with what I think is really better for all parties, because I feel like if you manipulate someone, by definition, it's like it is for your gain and it's at their detriment, right? If it's
and even the term manipulation can be easily misconstrued. It tends to overarchingly have a negative connotation to it, but manipulation can also be used for the good as well.
Yes.
So again, it comes down to personal definitions, how people use language and use arguments. Yeah, of course. Yeah, like generally, like manipulation is something that's used for self-interest purposes and all that. But yeah,
right. Yeah, so that's where it's like I always kind of. I mean, when I'm referring to myself, it's like the word has been thrown out there that I was being manipulative, in various contexts, not in crypto, but in my personal life over the years. And then it's like that stung a little bit because it's like, no, it's like you don't understand. It's like what I'm doing is genuinely what I think is best for everybody, not just me, but for everyone. So that's where I kind of decided like, hey,
of course, you're always going to expect that, pushback even.
Yeah. It's like if someone feels like you're coming on too strong to persuade them, then they're going to feel manipulated, right? But my point of even saying that is in doing that, and I feel like guys like Crispy Man and Papa B and even DJ to a degree and others in the community have been so nice and so open, especially after Richard's pivot once he launched Pulse Chain. Because for me personally, I just noticed this at tax time. One of the things that I was wrecked on, I mean, and it's a small amount of money. It's like I never put large amounts in any of my DGen plays, was pPepe. Because Richard had a fucking farm for it for like a 12 hours or some bullshit.
Yeah, and likewise with the P version of wrapped Bitcoin as well.
Bitcoin. Yep, I had that too. And it's like, and I already had some wrapped Bitcoin, but I had, and I didn't, because it wasn't on chain, it was on a centralized exchange. I had Bitcoin, which I know, whatever. But I had a little bit on there, and then I had some wrapped Bitcoin that got copied, and then I bought some, right? But I guess the thing is like that narrative shifted of like, you can't talk about anything I didn't make, to where, hey, it's okay to talk about the P copies because that's part of our marketing to the broader world of Ethereum people. Like, come on over, check out your P copies.
Yeah, and I leaped on that pretty hard, which is when I started like if you want to go back in my history, like I did talk about P copies like pDAI, PLUSD for a little bit.
Yes. Yep.
The thing was, I'm not a coder, I'm not a dev, and I just look at the two primary elements. I look at the what different pathways of marketing that can be strategized and utilized to bring the maximum amount of people into Pulse Chain. Right. And the P copies at in the early days of the launch, like 23, 24, that seemed like an obvious route to take, like a logical route to take, especially when you saw even Richard tweeting a couple of things about I'll look at the chart of the wrapped BTC P version, or pDAI as well.
Right. Well, yeah, and it's like
I think it was like I'll just quickly finish that.
Sorry.
Because I'm not a code or a dev, I don't know how to go into the weeds of either front door or backdoor code exploits in this stuff. So when I'm presented with really established and empirical evidence that there is some kind of exploit, whether it's direct or indirect, you have to update your worldview.
Yes.
And fully take that into account with regard to, okay, what are you actually investing in?
Sure.
So this is sort of like speaking to the current debacles with pDAI and Atropa and all that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like to kind of try to keep things on the timeline of how they occurred. It's like, I don't know how many people remember RH talking about stables, because I remember many green room conversations, whether it was behind the scenes on Discourse Syndicate, like after we'd be on there for 3 or 4 hours or whatever, we'd stay up for another hour or two talking about all this kind of stuff and speculating. I was actually the admin of the admin group in Telegram for Richard's channels. So it's like he had enough faith in me to invite me to be an admin. So I was an admin, and then we realized we had some issues with basically people getting banned in one group, and then they would go to a different admin and plead their case, and then they would get unbanned. So there was no communication between the admins. So me and Nenad went to Richard and we're like, hey, we need an admin group on Telegram for all the admins so we can compare notes and make sure we're on the same page with how you want to, how we should be doing this. And that was right before the Pulse Chain group started. And then we had voice chats there. So long before Twitter Spaces, I feel like the old man of crypto talking about this, but before there were Twitter Spaces, we had that. So people would come there, and there would be guys like me, there'd be Gary, there'd be Papa. I got Papa in as an admin, Nenad, of course, many others that volunteered their time to educate and keep people on point talking about Hex only. And then when that pivoted to Pulse, that was a tricky one because we could only talk about Pulse, which wasn't even launched yet. And there were people that wanted to speculate about what might be built on Pulse. Well, that's not a Richard coin. So how do we do that, right? We can't talk about those because it's not a Richard coin, because there was still that narrative until it launched. Then when it launched, like we just said, he obviously pivoted because he thought, hey, we need to be able to talk about these other things to some degree if we want people to come and participate. One of those things being,
especially if they're going to actually have free copies of their stuff.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we got to be able to talk about it. We can't ignore it. It's like, that was the big thing. Hey, the biggest airdrop in the history of mankind, right? That was the whole marketing pitch. So obviously we had to make that pivot, and he had to soften his stance on people talking about other things. And him himself doing it with the yield farms that we talked about, with the PWBTC and the PPEPE early on. as he was kind of feeling out how that should all work. But one of the things that I wanted to point out was, and people I think forget, or they weren't around for it, he talked about the stables. And we talked about the stables in those green room conversations. Like, hey, man, it's like, it seems to me like maybe it's a good idea when these things launch, we snap up a bunch of stables, because if they peg, fuck, I mean, it's going to be a fraction of a penny and it's going to $1. Come on, get out of here. It's worth throwing $50 at. So that was like Kinetics, me, RG3, like all of us were talking about that stuff of like, that would be a good play. And then Richard comes out and he's saying, maybe not, guys, maybe not. He was telling us from before the launch that the stables were maybe not a good gamble. He said possibly, but, and I remember him because my preferred stable is USDC. He came right out and said, they've got admin keys. If they don't like what's going on over there, whether it goes to $1 or not, they can come over and turn it off and invalidate fucking everything.
And now we know 100% at this point now that it's all come out, like 100%, there's no sweeping it under the rug, is that DAI's version of admin keys is in the PMaker, right? And there's no, there you go. There you go. So
there it is. Yeah.
So basically, I mean, Richard couldn't have been more explicitly clear in his recent tweet storm of the nature of the admin keys, because there's different types of admin keys as well. It's not just like one umbrella. That's another thing that people that are new to crypto might not understand. There are some admin keys that are extremely, like, inherently malicious and highly dangerous, and some not as much. But even if it happens to be the type of admin keys that's not as potentially malicious, you still don't really want to be playing with that sort of fire. But so when it's clear that the admin keys are there, and there's no amount of speculative stickiness, if that's the right term, to correct or to remove that code exploit problem within pDAI because of PMaker,
right?
And it's
and it's not as simple as just like, I mean, like you said, there's varying degrees of like how much admin keys can matter. As a rule, you want something with no admin keys. That was beaten into our heads for years.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah, and there can be good founders with admin keys with good intentions that remain good intentions, where the admin keys are kind of not that big of a deal, but it's still technically a threat, because just like your own keys being exposed in some way, if access somehow is exposed, that founder's good intentions are out the fucking window, because then someone else is
you're injecting a middleman when you basically, the whole point of crypto is to eradicate as much middleman shit as possible.
Exactly.
As we know.
Exactly. And then, so the thing with pDAI in particular, and this is where I kind of, if Crispy happens to come across this, whatever, I spoke to him briefly in the green room and then on stream Thursday. It was not directed at him. It was more at just all of us as influencers, and how myself even had this middle path idea of like, let's be friendly to the pDAI guys. Let's be friendly. I mean, I was infamously unfollowed by Richard at one point because I was speaking nicely to the Pulse Bitcoin guys. My thinking at that point, before Richard made his own pivot, was these guys are going to do what they're doing anyhow. And what they're doing over there, and it's funny how there's a correlation here. The reason I was talking to the Pulse Bitcoin guys, I had a small bag, and I thought that there might be some utility there and might be some opportunity. But the bigger thing was the people that started it were Hexog's with staking ladders, yet they were telling all their followers Pulse Bitcoin is the be all end all, and people were aping huge amounts. They were dumping Hex, they were buying that bullshit. And I was there to kind of tell them like, hey, maybe you need to pay attention to what these founders are doing more than what they're saying, and see what's really going on here. And Richard saw that I had even mentioned Pulse Bitcoin and unfollowed me. And then shortly after that, he unfollowed everybody, right? And then all of a sudden he comes out with his pivot, which felt like a little bit like, what the fuck, dude? Now it's okay to talk about other things, but whatever. But my point is this, is that I was doing that same thing with pDAI where I was friendly to both sides. Plus it was a speculative play. I had a small bag. I still have a tiny amount. I sold like 95% of what I had, but I had, a bag that ended up being worth a lot of money. And I round tripped it. I didn't take any profit at the top because I thought, hey, it's a gamble. Do I go try to cash my lottery ticket in early for, not even 5% of what it could be worth? It's like, or do I wait and see if the lottery ticket hits? So I waited and I had it. But where it changed for me is like you were saying, when it became undeniable that the exploit was happening and that effectively there was no fix to it. And if anybody wants to do it, I can put it in the chat. There's a quick Google will get you this document. It's 25 pages. It tells you all about the Maker protocol, MakerDAO's multi-collateral DAI system, and tells you how it works. And it's kind of like admin keys, but effectively what it is governance. And they have control of it to the extent that only they can change what the problem is that's broken. They could go in and say, hey, no longer look to these price oracles, look to these price oracles. But if the MakerDAO bros over on Ethereum don't come and do that, sorry, guys, game over.
It's a similar issue that happened with the P version of LUSD as well.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with that, but I remember you talking about it, and I was like, what's that about?
I was getting in amongst that because I genuinely thought that it might have been another cool speculative play alongside pDAI in the same kind of way. And you look at the LUSD stablecoin on the ETH side, and it's a pretty solidly legit stable and has been a battle-tested stablecoin on the ETH side. So maybe that's got some potential. So I leaned into that, and then initially when the first mint exploit or the Oracle issue, similar to what's going on with pDAI now, happened, I had to fully reassess, like within a very short amount of time. I'm like, okay, something's not right. But then within, I think it was like within a week or so, I can't remember the exact time frame, it was about a week from the time it first got outed to the point where, okay, this exploit is with this Oracle shit is 100% legit. And that's when I was like, there's no way I'm talking about this anymore.
Right.
And I'm out. So
well, and it's funny to me too that, because I've tried to engage less because, what came of the conversation with on What the Hex, and I've tried to like touch on it 3 times, and I'm like an ADHD squirrel tonight because I'm too caffeinated, so I'm jumping around a bit. So I apologize for that. But the thing that I got on Crispy for was that us as influencers, which I hate that term because it's like, who the fuck listens to me? But people of my level, lower levels, even as far as followers and how much content they're providing and how many people pay attention to them, whether we like it or not, we do have influence. And people look to us to be, like for lack of a better term, like the big brains in the community. It's like, well, these guys know, they've been around. So it's like, I'm just going to defer my own judgment. And I'm not really going to do the DYOR because T-Bird and Toby said they're doing this thing. So fuck it. I'm going to ape some in over there. Right. And then guys like Sami, God love him. I love Sami. I think he's fucking hilarious. But, he can say all day long, 90% core, 10% lottery. But there are people that are doing 100% fucking lottery because they're trying to catch up because they've heard about these mad gains and they think they're going to make up ground on the RH core community by aping into the lottery. And then what happens with a lot of them, they rotate out of what their lottery gains are, if they make any money at all, into RH core, right? And then they're building their RH core bags. So my thing with that I pointed out to Crispy on stream just generally was, if now that we know that there is an exploit and this thing is broken and we talk about it at all, we can't equivocate and then say, well, but I don't know all of it. So, there could be a chance that maybe this thing works out because
and we're seeing a lot of people do that.
Yeah. And it's like, and I said on the stream, even I'd encourage people to go watch it. I dropped a link to just that segment earlier today, and I really feel like I kind of nailed it. And the thing is like, if you do that, you're talking to people that literally hinged on the question mark. Like when Richard put one of his initial tweets out about like, fuck this shit, he was like, I mean, basically what he was saying is maybe you should stop buying pDAI, dumbass. Like that was what's in parentheses that's missing, dumbass. Yeah. And they're like, well, he's
and on what exactly what you're talking about right now.
Yeah.
With him doing the question mark, like sort of like phrasing things and framing things with his tweets in the context of question marks, it sort of passively gives certain people in the community permission to be overtly conspiratorial around it.
Yeah,
when there's no real justification for it.
None.
And the problem though as well is that they're able to justify it because all you're getting is text.
Well, they're taking advantage of any ambiguity. And it's like anybody with a fucking brain in their head should be able to understand, guess what, guys? It ain't April 21st yet. We're not out of the woods with this SEC shit. Richard's basically probably been under a gag order from his own attorneys for 2 years now. And guess what? Maybe he can't put a fucking exclamation point at the end of it. Like, hey, fucking idiot, stop buying this shit. So
and you know what? Even if he did, would they stop?
They would still find a way. And that was my example. And it's like, I mean, I don't know where you come down on this. I'm assuming it's on the same side as I am with the science. I equated it to flat earthers. It's a religion, to some of these people with the conspiracy theories. And it's like, I like a good conspiracy theory. It's entertaining to me. And there's certain things I think that are legit conspiracies out there. Don't get me wrong.
I think it really comes down to the term I like to use is fundamentalism.
There it is. So it's like religious fundamentalism.
Whatever it is, whatever it happens to be, if you're a fundamentalist on it, you're going to be, there's nothing that's going to persuade you to, no matter how much evidence or facts that are presented to you, the ideology that's steeped in the mindset that you have around what you're fundamentalist about, it's basically going to hijack your psychology.
Yep. And then add money. Then add money to that equation. And it gets even murkier because it's like it might be people that aren't necessarily fundamentalists in their belief systems, but
it's even worse. It's even worse with money.
Yeah,
because now you're actually attaching the notion of value on top. And I did a tweet on this recently.
Yeah,
you're attaching something that's like universally recognized as value on top of the ideological entrenchment that it has in your mind.
Right. So, yeah. It's like, and that's what's, people, I think, bristle at is that you can feel it. Like, if you don't know it, you can feel it with some of these guys. Like, bro, that guy's got fucking bags. And all he is doing is tap dancing as fast as he can to get as many people as he can to give him exit liquidity. Because there's I don't know what the bias would be called, but I know personally what it feels like to have on paper mad gains. Like silly gains. Like at the top of the bull market for Hex, I remember taking screenshots of my staker app, and boy howdy,
it was the same for me, man.
It was generational wealth. Let me just tell you. And I didn't cash out any. I hung on because I knew the pulse chain was coming, and I did the sacrifice and all that shit. And I wrote it out. I still haven't sold any RH Core tokens, and but I understand that feeling. It's like, so if you're a pDAI guy, just for example, since that's what we're talking about, and all of a sudden you look and it says you have $1 million in pDAI, right? You didn't sell it. You hung on to it. And then all of a sudden, all this truth comes out, quite frankly. Richard said the truth is better. And I agree. And all of a sudden your $1 million is worth fucking 10K.
And so the cope kicks in that you've got to like, I messed up so bad by not selling when it was at the tops.
Yes,
I've got to try to run it back up, and then I'll take some that kind of psychology.
Exactly. And people smell that shit a mile away.
That's crypto, like overall. That's across the board.
Well, I mean, and we could be accused of that with as much as we are zealous about Hex, right? Like, oh, you guys just want to sell us your bags.
Well, I can only speak for myself on this, but for me personally, what makes Hex unique and separates itself from the rest is that it's built from so many different vantage points. It was built to be that long-term investment vehicle. This is my personal opinion. I can't see another crypto asset out there where you can definitively say, yes, it was 100% built intrinsically from the beginning to be that long-term investment vehicles, similar to how basically sort of how traditional bonds work in the traditional financial world.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, and that was the thing that roped me into it initially, was just like, and especially as I learned about T-shares and understood the potential with it. And, for people that already, that got in, even not early, but just before the OA did all of that staking and set up a staking ladder, I genuinely still believe those people are going to win. Like, if you got a staking ladder in ahead of that and we're able to reap some of those benefits, and it's hard to say what's going to happen with those OA stakes. Personally, I believe, and time will tell, there is a psychological thing that there was an article that I posted about it. It was about this experiment with monkeys, and effectively it was about intermittent reward. And like, if you give someone a reward, or a monkey a reward, they press a lever, and every time they press a lever, they get a pellet, right? And they eat the pellet. And they're like, okay, I'm going to press that lever. I'm going to get my pellet. What they would do eventually, they'd kind of have enough pellets, and they knew they could go back anytime they want and press the lever and get a pellet because they've been conditioned to that. But if you only give the monkey a pellet on a random lever press, what they found in these studies was the monkey will compulsively press the lever because he is addicted to the idea of when the next pellet is coming, even when it's more than he can eat. He will continually just hammer that lever. So my thinking is this could be a setup for later on, the OA nukes one of the stakes, and then anyone with T-shares gets a big payday for that.
This is one of the things that I touched on with Day 43 when I went on a stream with him recently too. We talked about this at length, about how the setup that now that the OA has laddered out all these stakes, these huge amounts. I can definitely see in the future that the OA would strategize the specific timing of when this is an if. But, I can definitely see a play where the OA could easily reward the staker class with nuking those, any one of the, even just one of those stakes would be a huge distribution of yield, just one of them. Let alone the actual quantity of them that are out there.
Which I think makes it even more interesting, because it's like he didn't do one gigantic stake. He did a bunch of big stakes, right? And at different lengths. So, I don't know the philosophy behind it, but it seems to me like it's a likely scenario to keep interest in staking Hex. Because at this point, someone brand new, I'm even reluctant to be like, it's like, should you stake? I don't know, man. The yield's kind of shitty, but it's like, delayed gratification. There's other psychological components.
You can still get someone like, while gas is cheap, both on the Ethereum and the Pulsar, like gas is still pretty cheap on both. You can just be like, just if you want to try it out, like stake for a week, stake for a couple of weeks, just to try out the how
the mechanism,
for how it works. And just do a couple of like short-term ones just to have a feel for it. But like obviously the yield isn't like anywhere near as attractive as it was before,
right?
Which invariably leads to the conclusion that, okay, so what's the play? Hold it liquid or stake it long,
right? Well, and the thing is too, is like, if one of the benefits, much like a certificate of deposit, which is what it was kind of marketed as early on, is delayed gratification, which is a philosophy I enjoy just on a personal level, but also financially it makes sense. And, the argument always was like with Bitcoin, it's like, had you had a way with Bitcoin to lock it for a certain amount of time with a significant penalty to not, to keep you in, and you didn't have that itchy finger to sell it on a dump or a pump, and you ended up being basically forced to hold for 10 years, you would have come out better than any trader. Absolutely, full stop. So there's still that mechanism there. And it's like, if you're earning more Hex, maybe it's not on average 38, 39% a year. It's a smaller percentage per year. Maybe not. We don't get these little big payday EES bonuses from the OA. Maybe we get them, maybe we don't. But if we don't, even still, you're earning Hex for free over that period of time, and you're not touching it, which is key to delayed gratification. And then when it does come out, maybe we're at $1. I say, let's fucking go. It's like hex to $1. It's like, that's not outside the realm of possibility. And then, those 2 or 3 hex you're earning.
Well, really, hex to $1 really isn't, and this is combined hex, so E hex and P hex combined.
Yes,
to $1 is not a stretch. I mean,
no.
Like it's not even 2x above the previous all-time high.
Nope.
So
nope.
It's not really, and in the context of, I mean, we're still from the data side of things. I think I saw RH Max post up a data-oriented tweet recently about how we're still getting an increase in staking activity and user activity in Hex, even amongst all the the carnage that we've been seeing play out.
Yep. It makes sense. It's like, and plus like some of the nuances that people don't pick up on, because it's real easy to just be like, oh, there's the OG cabal and they've been dumping on our heads for years and yada, yada, yada. It's like, but if it's kind of like with the pDAI thing, it's like, if you dig in and you read and you don't listen to the talking heads that have a vested interest, right? To like keep you buying this stuff because they have bags most likely. And you can kind of steer away from that. What you come to realize is, as you dig into the likelihood of hex OGs with big stakes and big staking ladders dumping on your heads, guess what, guys? There was a little thing that came out called Hedron. And I did the math on this back during the last bull run. And it wasn't at the all-time high. It was either on the way up or the way back down. And it was maybe, I don't even know what the prices were at that point, maybe 25 cents, if I had to guess. But a mid-level dolphin was making 6 figures, like $100,000 a year in Hedron. Mm-hmm. So why, if you were a Hex OG that were in early and had all those Hedron, and plus with Hedron, if you do the deep dive, there was a period of time where you could get a 10x bonus on your Hedron minting. If that was happening and you have those stakes coming out that are earning all that Hedron and our prices get back to any approximation of where they used to be, why would you sell the golden goose? Why would you get rid of your Hex stakes when you have Hedron? If you want to liquidate something to take profit, personally, I would take profit on that first before I would sell any Hex. And that's what people don't get. It's like,
but of course, the tricky part of that is that because of the liquidity bonding between Hedron and Hex, if some of the OGs are dumping big on the Hedron, it's going to have an impact on the Hex price as well.
Well, yeah, and I mean theoretically, as we raise in price, my assumption is, there's a reason that the liquidity we've been disincentivized to provide liquidity, because the liquidity being low has an impact, right? It makes prices go up or down more easily. It gives dumpers less opportunity to extract large amounts of volume or value. And what typically a good idea or good strategy is for market makers, and those, with the ability to thicken or thin liquidity in a significant fashion, is if you want to stabilize prices, you want really thick liquidity, right? And as prices go up, it seems to me like, maybe the OA, maybe other people see a value in keeping their own bags safe by stabilizing that price, because then people are, if you can get up to 25 cents, 50 cents, $1 on Hex, and then that price stays close to that, and we don't do another 80-90% drawdown in the next bear, and you can keep it where it is. Because my theory always was that Hex was going to be really choppy in the first years, and eventually it would kind of level off and almost become a stable of its own, where you don't want giant volatility swings in your retirement account, right? So if the idea is that Hex is a long-term investment, if you can earn a decent yield on it, the price is pretty stable, that's way more attractive than.
I agree. But I personally think that, you're never going to remove the volatility out of Hex.
I mean, it depends. It depends. I mean,
well, the thing is that there's also the numerological and astrological component of Hex as well, which I factor into my analysis.
Yeah, if you want to get into that, dude, I'm all about.
Which also speaks to the. I mean, first and foremost, like crypto as a whole, like speculative instruments in crypto, like across the board, they're all going to have, serious volatility.
Right.
Especially with stuff that has extremely low liquidity. And like generally across the board in the crypto market, things are way less liquid than, TradFi. But Hex more specifically, because of its primary prevailing energy of the actual launch of Hex itself, which was December 2nd, 2019, which was the launch day. So the prevailing energy of it is 8. So
Okay.
it was birthed on an 8 universal day, and 8 is the number of money and power.
Got it.
And it's also 8 is also a number of karma, which if you sort of extrapolate that understanding into the nature of the crypto that you're talking about as well. In this case, Hex. But when it comes to 8 energy, there's never any in between. When it comes to money, it's either you have a lot of it. It's extremely massively volatile up and down. People that have 8 energy tend to have either get a huge amount of money, but then they lose it just as fast. So it's like me having strong 8 energy because I'm born on an 8 day. I'm born on the 26th. 2 + 6 is 8. So it's not my primary prevailing energy. It's my secondary, but it's still one of my strongest energies. So, and when I sort of look back on my life and I see, the 8 energy truly defines my behavior in a lot of ways when it comes to money. So let's translate that into what it means for Hex overall as a cryptocurrency. You're going to see maximum extremes when it comes to volatility, both on the upside and the downside, right? Because with 8 energy, it's either extremely up or extremely down.
Right. And
that's exactly what we've seen.
Yeah.
We've seen the maximum possible extreme to the upside in 21, and now we're literally experiencing the polar opposite of that. There's never been anything really in between.
No.
Hex.
Yeah.
So
well, we've even seen that with Bitcoin over the years. It's like, even though it's the granddaddy of them all, there's still been huge drawdowns. I mean, we went from 20,000 down to 30.
But not 99%, man.
Not 99%. No. It's gonna be crazier. Roller coaster. It's like Bitcoin's kind of like the kiddie park rides at this point, and but the early days, it was the big boy rides, and it was doing 95% dumps. And then over time, it got to be more manageable, right? So that was kind of always my feeling, that not this cycle, maybe not next cycle, but maybe 3 or 4 cycles from now, it's like, I feel like the volatility should subside in Hex. Like maybe before my 15-year stakes are up, maybe Hex will be a little more stable. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean the extent of bearish sentiment that I'm seeing out in crypto land at the moment, I'm almost it's leading people to the the kind of conclusions that there may not even there's what the hell is a bull cycle? Like a lot of people in crypto today who weren't around in 21 or earlier, won't even know what a bull market even entails.
Right.
What is this thing called euphoria? What is this thing called actual some kind of retail adoption coming in, crypto wide, and actually the whole market actually raising up.
Right.
But a lot of people haven't actually experienced that. So, and that was for me when I came in in the golden time, when everything was just moving up, everything for the most part.
Oh yeah, you could throw a dart. You could throw a dart in an altcoin and winner. Pick a winner.
I'd never experienced a bear market, so I had no idea what it actually meant to experience the emotions of everything is mega wrecked, and there's a possibility that nothing ever comes back.
Yep. And it's and I think that's what behooves, people like us and others that have been through it, to kind of, not to be the old wise guru on the hill necessarily, because I never want to put myself in too high of a position, but to share that experience, right? Because it's like the people that are coming in and haven't experienced it, and all of a sudden it's like they feel like this, especially if they've invested more than they're comfortable. Like, because everyone says like only invest what you can afford to lose. Well, the reality of it is most people invest more than that, right? More than they can comfortably lose. And to be able to temper those emotional reactions and let them know, like, yeah, it ain't different, bro. It's like this has been going on since Bitcoin launched. It's like, and when the altcoins came in, boy, howdy, did it get even more volatile and scary of a roller coaster ride. For us to be able to kind of calm those feelings down, so people are less reactionary and emotional in their financial choices. I would hate to. I mean, like, I'm obviously a full-blown believer in the RH ecosystem. I think that it is a sneeze for us to get to a combined dollar for Hex. I feel like if Richard's really going for glory and the liquidity is thin enough at the right time, I feel like he's not a guy that's happy.
And which it is, like the liquidity right now. I can't remember the last time I saw liquidity in Hex being this thin.
It's super thin. It's super thin. And it's like, and think about it. It's like, that's probably why BankX isn't completely out, right? If the liquidity had stayed thicker and the price had continued to go up, guarantee you that BankX would have sold off their last 199 million or whatever they've got of eHex. And, but now that it's so thin, it's like, if they try to move any of it, it's like it pushes the price against them majorly, right? Yeah. So yeah, I think as time goes on, that we're gonna see that liquidity thicken as prices go up, and things will get a little more stable, and people will have opportunity to take some profit without wrecking the chart. But my point is that as far as an all-time high for eHex, especially while the liquidity is low, and Richard, I mean, I don't want to speak for the guy. I don't know him personally, but what I know of him, if he's going for glory, he's not a guy that's happy with an asterisk, right? He doesn't want to say, well, technically we had a new all-time high on eHex. He wants eHex to be at a real legit all-time high this cycle. I honestly feel like he's going to do what he can to facilitate that, whether he's injecting capital himself or encouraging other people, or just by the mere fact that all the Pulse chain ecosystem RH core stuff is going up, that it drags eHex with it. But I really feel like eHex is going to be above 52 cents before the cycle's out. And if we're at a 3 to 5x on pHex versus eHex, then you're looking at what, like $2 or $1.50 to $2.50 pHex. I mean, that sounds pretty good to me. And that's not that giant of a move from where we are.
So let's quickly pivot. Let's do some of your TA if you want to go.
Yeah, we can do that. Let me
and then we can wind it up after the TA.
Cool, man. Happy to do so. Let me get it pulled up here real quick. Like,
do you need me to do anything on my side?
I'll share the screen, and then I can just kind of rattle through the charts real quick.
Just let me know if I need to do anything on my side.
I think here we go. Once I share the screen, I think that you
while you're looking for the TA, just want to give a big shout out to everyone that's in the chat, putting in the comments, consistently checking them all out. Inviting Freedom, really good to see you. Always good to see you supporting, being around and supporting our ecosystem. Another OG female that's been around a long time. Who else we got here? Ramlos, Agent 87, Hex Thailand. Good morning. Good to see you.
And then T-Bird, what do you want to do? So, I mean, we can do all of them. I can just look at Hex and pHex. We can throw Bitcoin and Ethereum in there if you want. It's up to you which charts you want to look at.
Yeah, let's go with both the hexes. The RH tickers.
Okay, cool. We can do that.
And yeah, Bitcoin and ETH as well. Why not?
Okay. Let me pull Bitcoin back up real quick. 1 second.
Hex Monkey, good to see you, brother.
Yeah, we got a good turnout on the chat. So always nice to have people supporting the live feeds, especially when they're late on a Saturday night here in the US. So, and hopefully we get some people.
368 people in here, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that's great. Good deal. That's fantastic. Yeah, I'm ready when you are. It's like I shared the screen. I think you just have to do it on your end to prove it.
Let's see.
I'm not sure what it looks like on your side because I've never been a host yet. But I've been inspired by you podcasting, so I might finally start doing my own show.
Yeah, man. Just having a look because I haven't actually done it before.
Oh, no worries.
Let's see.
Yeah, there should be like an additional window. Like down at the bottom for me, it shows my ugly mug, and then I've got another window that I'm presenting. So you might need to bring that up like another guest. Maybe.
Okay, yeah. So it's so I've got to bring up. So I'll do it as an invite guest.
No. Maybe. Or I don't know that you have to invite the guest. It's like, do you see my screen that I'm sharing like anywhere? No. Okay. Because it's like I've got it shared.
Oh wait, I've got it here.
Okay, cool.
All right, let's go.
Hey, there we go. Right on. So, I'll do the quick version. This will be much better. It's like, I love Papa B. He's like a real life friend of mine, and he does not talk to me. We would not be friends. Let's put it that way. He does not talk to me in real life like he does on that fucking show. Cause like for him, it's a bit like he thinks it's funny to just interrupt me entirely the whole time I'm trying to do my TA and frustrate me. So, there's times that it's kind of like, friends bust each other's balls. Papa has a tendency to go a little too far sometimes. So, it got a little heated in the green room after last week's stream. So my apologies to Papa if he's paying attention. But hey, what friend haven't you said fuck off to, right? So if it's a real friendship, it'll survive. So
you've got the platform, brother. So just
So Bitcoin. So basically, for those familiar with the TA with Tobiwan on What the Hex, and then occasionally I'll be sharing these charts on X. This is a giant ascending parallel channel on the Bitcoin chart. So these are the 21 tops in April and November. And then you can see where we hit the top of that channel. And then we rode the bottom of that channel all the way through the bear in November of 22. We got all the way down here to about 14K, worked our way back up. In October, we were up to about 26K. And then we started our slow march toward the halvening, right? So with the halvening, which was this green vertical line, this dashed vertical line right there, if you can see that, in April of 2024, I predicted that we would get up to around 73K. I think I missed my prediction by like $120 or something. So everyone was like, that's crazy, because I was talking about it way back here. And they're like, there's no way.
That was based on fibs?
That was based on just the basic geometric patterns. Sometimes I'll use fibs for confirmation. So like if I see something in a pattern, whether it's a measured move of a bull flag or a triangle or a parallel channel, I try to keep it real simple. Like I went, not to get too far afield from this, but I went way down the rabbit hole in 2018 trying to rebuild my bags after I'd wrecked myself about 90% by round tripping in my first cycle. And I took all of the Eric Crown trading courses and learned all the tricks, right? Like I've got hidden indicators that were paid indicators. One's called the Jewel, for example. That was like back in the day, it was like $5,000, but I'm like, you know what? But it paid for itself many times over. And so I'll use that sometimes to kind of confirm, but it's a little more complicated. So especially for stuff that I share in public, I try to keep it really simple. And most of what I do, I start with the simple stuff, the geometric patterns, bull flags, triangles, parallel channels. So with just what I was seeing with the parallel channel, for the white parallel channel, we had the yellow dash line, which is the midline of the big white parallel channel. I saw that there was a potential for us to get to that sooner than anticipated. Plus down here, this little section is a bull flag. So that bull flag to me was like, hey, if we break out of this and bull pennant. So if we want to get a little technical and kind of technical here, then basically this is like a little triangle, right? At the top of this big pole. So when we got to the tip of that pennant, typically you're going to move the height of that flagpole. So that flagpole was taking us up to around 60. So I'm like, well, shit, that's just a whisper away from the midline. So, we should at least get to 65 But if we're gonna try to challenge, which I think, you know, just with FOMO and the general sentiment at the time is we're starting to make these crazy parabolic moves in Bitcoin back in March, April, you know, we're probably going to overshoot and break the all-time high. So that's where I made my prediction of around 73,000, and then we nailed it. So, and then typically after the halving, on average, there's a pullback of around 39%. And that's been every cycle in Bitcoin all the way back. After the halving, there's usually a run up pre-halving. You pull back about 39%, and then you run to new all-time highs. And then typically it's like that. The all-time highs would be happening now, but because everything happened earlier.
Yeah. So in the context of what you're just talking about, so how I sort of see it is it's sort of like a left translated cycle.
Bingo. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say next. Is like, you know, this is a great example of what I would determine or distinguish as a left translated cycle. Everything's just kind of shifted to the left. So we got those tops early, and it's like, you know, I mean, I joke that fractals, like this is what this little pattern is right here. This is
do you factor in the possibility of the January top actually being the top?
I think it could be, but I don't think it is. And I think that there's too many other factors at play. You know, we've got a president that is pro crypto. We have ETFs, like we got the ETH ETF out of the way now, and then they're talking about like a Solana ETF. There's much more broad term adoption. So for me, I really feel like we're gonna have that breakout, and that's also where these patterns come in. So, you know, if you look at fractals, which I kind of joke that TA is kind of like astrology, not to dismiss astrology, but you know, because a lot of people say like TA is astrology for men, right?
Astrology for men, yeah. and I find that expression really comical to me now.
Right. Well, because there are correlations.
Because of my actual knowledge and understandings of numerology and astrology now.
Yeah, there absolutely are correlations. You know, it's like I don't know enough about it to speak on it articulately or intelligently. You obviously do. I think you actually did my chart, I think, at one point, and we talked about that a little bit. You gave me a little insight on it, and it's remarkable, like how accurate some of that stuff turns out to be. So I kind of joke that fractals are like looking at your tarot cards through a crystal ball. It's like another layer of speculation or like kind of woo-woo for some people, but this is the fractal of the 21 cycle. So this would be the April top, and then this is the top, you know, 7 months later in November. So when you lay that in over the chart that we have now, it's playing out pretty nicely, left translated, shifted back a few months to where it's correlating with the January top. And we've pulled down. The fractal shows a retest in late April of around the $78,000, $80,000 mark. And then we work our way back up and get near the top of the white channel again in August. Now, so it'll be interesting to see if that fractal continues to play out. My thinking is, though, it's not going to be a double top like it was in 21 because of all the aforementioned things. I think that we would likely get a breakout sometime through here, sometime anywhere from, you know, I mean, crazy shit happens in crypto. It can happen in weeks. So I would say the earliest we really see any kind of move back toward the top of the white channel, which would be around 110K, which we definitely want to get above that on Bitcoin to improve sentiment in crypto in general. So it could happen anytime, I think, from May, you know, through summer, through August, September. So if that's the case and we follow that fractal and get back up to the top of this channel by mid-August, the measured move of that white channel, if we do a full measured move and break out, that puts you up around 200,000. So I think everyone in Bitcoin land would be pretty happy with a $200,000 Bitcoin. And then theoretically, Ethereum, which we can go ahead and jump to the Ethereum chart really quickly. And I've got a fractal on that one too. And that one lays in where this is the May. I didn't shift it left, which we could actually live while we're doing it and see if it lines up. It's kind of close, but not as much as what I'm hoping is happening here, where basically the May top, we've kind of made these moves. I showed this on the What the Hex the other day. So we're following.
So based on that fractal, that would imply that we retest the line.
Retest the midline around 4,000. Yep, in May. Yeah. So if that plays out,
if it gets rejected at that line, does that mean essentially that it's weaker or stronger?
If it follows the fractal and does the same pattern of the double top like it did in 21, then it could be a situation where we come back down through the summer along the bottom of its channel, do a big bear trap or just a dump over the next couple of months. And into July, we kind of get another run. And then it's odd to me. I always look for confluence of things. With this fractal, it's showing that we hit right on the midline, which also happens to be the previous all-time high of 4,000-ish. The pullback of the fractal, and then the secondary hits the midline again. So to me, that's like, whoa, that's kind of weird that's not, it seems like too big to be a coincidence. So in this scenario, it's showing November that we get up to around $5,000. But just like I was saying on Bitcoin, I don't think it stops there. I think if we get back there, this is equivalent to us hitting the top again in Bitcoin in August, September, and then breaking out. What we would be doing on Ethereum is we would hit the midline again in October, November, which is typically lagging a little bit behind Bitcoin. Then we get a breakout and maybe we get to the top of the orange channel, which would get us up to around 7,300. And if something changed to where we got really, really bullish sentiment on Ethereum and we did the full measured move at the top of that channel at the end of the year, maybe even into the beginning of 2026, then you're looking at a move to $17,000 Ethereum, right? So you're approaching quickly the 10-to-1 ratio, which is, what we approached years ago, I believe in the 2017-18 cycle between Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? So it's been a long time since we've had that kind of ratio, but it'd be interesting if we were at $200,000 Bitcoin and shortly after that, we got up to $18,000 Ethereum. So it'd be wild to see, it's going to be fun to watch over the next few months to see how everything plays out. But that's
the thing is, like with Ethereum though, I've never, like since I've been into crypto, I've never seen this kind of bearish sentiment on Ethereum ever.
Yeah. It's been pretty
and it's also like it's older. It's a lot older as well. It's in its third cycle.
Right. Well, and quite frankly, I think the ETFs might have hurt it a bit because, you're bringing in a lot of more institutional investors.
To counter argue that, the ETF of Bitcoin was really good for Bitcoin in the context of price performance, whereas Ethereum didn't. I think it's more about the timing of when Ethereum did its ETF.
Right.
It did its ETF almost exactly the same time that Bitcoin did its ETF. So obviously the Bitcoin ETF was always going to get way more attention than the Ethereum ETF, just because it's the first mover, it's the leader of the industry. So it took away from the Ethereum, like the novelty of Ethereum getting its ETF.
Right.
And whether that's by design or not, like you can go into the conspiratorial elements of that if you want, but if Ethereum had waited a while for like the Bitcoin ETF to play itself out, the institutionals come in, the boomers get their bags or whatever.
Right.
And then after Bitcoin has done its ETF run, then do the ETF at Ethereum. I think it would have had a very different, it would have been a completely different play out.
Well, and you might remember the term. I don't think it was technically an exchange traded fund, or maybe it was an ETF, but it was not. Oh God, I'm losing my language here. It was not spot settled, but like basically you had to settle ETFs with like actual Bitcoin buys and sells. So basically back in 2018 when we topped on Bitcoin, right, and got up to 20,000. There was something that happened with Bitcoin that made it more institutionally like accepted. And that was part of the hype that got us to 20,000. But then when that thing hit, that marked the top and then it rolled over. And then we were a 4-year cycle. And then like the full blown ETF, and like, please, if anyone in the chat remembers, help me out here. Cause it's like, I'm struggling to remember what the term was back in.
Yeah. I can't remember the term either, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right. But everybody was like, oh my God.
It was exactly like when it was like when Bitcoin topped in April 21.
Yeah.
And it literally coalesced at exactly the same time as that Coinbase IPO. I think it was.
Yep.
It literally lined up like almost, and that was what basically
that was the hype cycle, right?
What gave Richard the confidence to call the top on the day was because of the IPO.
Yep. So in 2018, something happened with Bitcoin. I can't remember what the terminology was for it, but that definitely helped us get to that 20K top. Once the news hit, it was sell the news for the next 4 years. Then we got to that top in 21. So there was more news that helped kind of propel that first top in April. And then, so I'm thinking since since Ethereum, none of that stuff started to happen for it until this cycle. There's kind of a little bit of that chilling effect that, okay, we got the Ethereum ETF, but until like the dust settles, is this long-term bullish? I think it is long-term bullish. I think that there's large institutional players that are absolutely accumulating ETH at these prices, and why would they be doing that if they didn't see tremendous upside? But on the retail investor side, because it's not been as strong a chart as Bitcoin, that's where I think we're seeing the weakness in the chart. So I think as that kind of percolates through, especially if we get a big blow off on Bitcoin and break that $110,000 local top and get well above that, I think there's what always happens is people, once they make big profits on something like that, they look what can I rotate into that hasn't moved yet? Well, if Ethereum's lagging, then that's what happens, right? People take their Bitcoin profits, and then all of a sudden Ethereum's pumping. And then people take their Ethereum profits, and then what pumps? Alt season happens, because they start looking for other places to make money, because this is already shot at shot. So, so I think it could be a situation where, late summer, Bitcoin shoots its shot, fall into winter, Ethereum shoots its shot. And, it could be a situation where, the alt season really starts in November. And, maybe we run through January. So it'll be, we might bleed over into 2026. So obviously our previous all-time high was September of 21. 4 years would be this September, but it could be a little longer. So everybody just temper your expectations on that. And, so here we can go over to the EHEX chart. So with EHEX, I'll just zoom out here a little bit for your viewers that might not be as familiar with my stuff. This is the all-time high back in 2021. This is a giant descending white parallel channel that we've been in since then with EHEX. Rode along the bottom from July through October of 23, got up to the midline, failed. We're getting held down by the 21 EMA, got above it and rode the top of the EMA, got above the midline, got above the 55 EMA, and then we had a death cross. And this is the infamous March 2024 death tweet from Richard saying the mark was chosen, yada, yada. So that ended up being bad for everything. You can see in the other charts, March of 24 was where everything plummeted. And then we just rode right along. And this is what gives me confidence in this parallel channel. We rode right along that channel all the way down. And then we finally started breaking up in September. So we got some bullish news. We rode up, almost got to the top of this internal yellow channel as we started to march our way toward the top of the white channel. And then just with the current sentiment, we've rolled over. So now, if we kind of zoom in here a little bit on the EHEX chart, we were working our way up this yellow channel, trying to get up here to the top of the white channel. I was hoping that everything would start to move for us and maybe even a breakout in April, May, at least the top of our channel around 0065, 007. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. So we got to adjust our expectation here. So if we're moving this out to, August, September, and then maybe the breakout's going to happen somewhere along there. I moved my fractal around here because the fractal broke. Like basically the fractal was working, and then we just took a hard nosedive to the right. So we'd have to kind of entertain our ideas about fractals to see if something else starts lining up later. But we rolled over and broke down. And then on Thursday, I started to talk about like, well, maybe we're now in, and it appears to be a descending orange channel. Now that we've broken out of the yellow, if we do the full measured move of the yellow channel and break down, once again, one of those the coincidences or things where they coalesce or correlate is it happens to hit right on the bottom of the white channel again. So I don't think anybody wants to see 3 zeros and a 5 on EHEX, but it's not outside the possibility. If we do the full measured move, it looks like right now we are finding support on the bottom of this orange channel. This is a 3-day chart. So we had a body red candle close on the last 3-day that ended on March 26th. This one started March 29th. So we got about a day and a half to go on this one. Yep, almost 2 days to go on this one. And right now, if we zoom way in, it is what is referred to as a spinning top doji. So we've got a green body and a little bitty wick up top and a little bit bigger wick on the bottom. So it's an indecision candle. Like, which way do we go, right? Are we going to go ahead and continue the move down, or do we find support here and start working our way back up? I would like to think that we start to pivot here and start to arch our way back up, maybe get up to, curiously, the midline of the orange channel, which coincides with the midline of the white channel. So, maybe as soon as mid-April, we're back up to, 0018. And then we keep working our way back up. And then maybe we can get back in this yellow channel, ultimately get into the white channel, like just to give a visual representation. Maybe we do something like this. We get up here, we kind of do a little dipsy doodle down. Then we kind of come back up, hit this, maybe reject the first time through, get here, break out, get into the yellow, find some resistance there, come back through, get to the white channel, get some resistance there. And then we start to finally work our way and break out and get into that broader yellow channel again. So, if that's the case, I got to take my little drawing tool off. Sorry. If that's the case, pardon my fumbling about. Get off of there. Stop that. I don't want to do any of those things. Stop. And okay, now we're back to it. So if that's the case, and then we are, falling in line with that theory that I have, that we start, moving toward all-time highs later in the summer into the fall, then you're looking at a breakout of the bigger white channel sometime in late August. The full measured move of that would take EHEX to around 6 cents. Do I think that that's the end of the run? I don't think so, because just like we've talked about earlier, the volatility on alts, especially HEX, is way greater than it is on the big boys like Ethereum and Bitcoin. So, where they're doing 80 or 90% drawdowns still, we're doing 99.8% drawdowns. So I think to the upside, it'll be similar, where we can get some crazy price appreciation. And I don't see it. I mean, look at it. It's like, it's not that big of a move from 6 cents to all-time high. That's not even a 10x, right? It's only like an 8.5x to get back to all-time high for EHEX. So, it could be a situation where it takes a little while to get there, but maybe it's a Christmas present for everyone. And we're at all-time highs on EHEX December 25th of this year. And if we're at 52 cents here and the EHEX PHEX ratio is still 3-to-1, then you're looking at about $1.50 PHEX. I think everybody would be pretty pleased with that Christmas prediction. Moving on over to PHEX, let me go ahead and pop this open. Similar situation here. Basically, we were in this ascending yellow channel, started to roll over. So I painted in a white descending channel here that we're in now. We have broken down from that. If, the full measured move of the yellow channel breaking down, and just for those that may not know, the way that these parallel channels work is the measured move is the height of the channel. So once you get a confirmed breakdown, and if it's going to make the full move, it's going to be the height of that channel. So here we go with correlation again. That, and with the breakdown we've just had of the white channel that it's in, both line up at a new all-time low for PHEX. So that would be pretty discouraging. We already got a new all-time low for Pulse, so I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that we could go this low. It's 0026. So I think that would be of issue. And then, oh, hang on a second. The dog stepped on the remote. Give me 1 second. I've got a TV blaring in the background.
That's
so
yeah,
time
that's
out.
all good.
1 second.
Yeah, all good. So I hope everyone who's tuning in is enjoying some of Toby's TA, because TA is really on point. I mean, we've got a lot of guys in the community who put out some really good technical analysis. I do some of my own personal technical analysis on my own, but maybe not with as many bells and whistles as some of guys like Toby does. But definitely recommend, if you happen to be an investor that doesn't do much of their own technical analysis, it's not the end of the world, but it's definitely it does give you some edge and some advantage in really understanding, zooming in, what's actually going on. And at the end of the day, when it comes to price charts are an exact representation and reflection of human emotion with regard to the movements of price. So when you know how to do even just the very basics of technical analysis, it just gives you more of a broad scoping awareness of where things might go in the future and how we got here from the past.
Well, and they tend to be self-fulfilling prophecies, right? So They are most definitely lagging indicators. Obviously, you don't know what a candle's going to look like until it already happened. But everyone in TA is looking at the same stuff. There are, I mean, these are a few bells and whistles, but there's a lot of bells and whistles. And, you know, the more advanced traders, you know, I used to equate it to, you know, there was a period in my life where I played blackjack for a living. And, you know, part of that strategy was card counting. So there are very, very complex card counting methodologies that will get you a significant advantage over the house. And you only need a little bit of a percentage move in that edge to be able to do well. It's complicated, but there are simpler card counting strategies where you will get about 95% of the gains of the more complicated system, but it is way simpler and it is less taxing mentally to try to keep up with those. One that I used was called the Red 7 count. That was very effective. But there are a lot of other, it's kind of like with TA. So for me, the simplified version of TA, which is just pattern trading, gets you 95% of the way there. Are you going to miss some of the moves and some of the calls and some of the precision that you're going to get with the more complex stuff? Yeah. But generally speaking, all traders out there that are following any kind of TA or doing their own TA are all seeing the same pattern. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like, you know, everyone knows when you get to the bottom of that channel that there's a likelihood that you're going to find some resistance there, or I'm sorry, some support there. Just like when you get to the top of a channel, it's likely you're going to get some resistance there. So what happens is that you will see traders that will set their sells at the top of the channel, and then they'll set their buy limit orders at the bottom of the channel. And they will just play that rolling cycle as long as the channel's working out. And then if you get a breakout, typically what you're looking for is a breakout of the channel to the upside.
And I remember also there was a stream, an old stream with Richard Hart and Ivan from back in the day. And I'll never forget, there was a clip from that stream where Richard Hart is totally schooling Ivan on the importance of the stuff that you're talking about with regard to TA. You know, the resistance lines on channels and support lines as well.
Exactly.
And Ivan was like, he was just outright dismissing it like it was a bunch of hocus pocus.
Well, he sure gets it now, though, doesn't he?
Richard was like, "Nah, this stuff works. It works."
Right. Yep. And you know, but you know, obviously naive, younger streamer back in the day, Ivan was. But I'm sure that he understands now more of what Richard was trying to teach him for sure. And then, you know, so the thing I try to do is that, you know, I'm not encouraging trading. I think that trading ultimately most of the time does get people wrecked because they, you know, they'll use leverage, you know, they'll overcommit. They don't do good money management. So, you know, I was a bad trader and then I got to be a pretty good trader. So, I mean, I took a bag that was $300,000 and it, you know, when I rolled over in 2018, that was worth less than 30,000. I ran that all the way back up to almost 300,000 again by big payday when I sold everything and put it into Hex. So I can speak with confidence when I say that TA does work, but it is a very small percentage of people that will be diligent.
At the end of the day, the reality is most people are just not going to have the time to really.
No, they're not going to put the effort in, and it gets too emotional.
So for me, like I've been able to allocate the time necessary to go that much further and deeper into understanding, at the very least, the fundamentals of TA.
Well, and even if you're
not, I've found it to be extremely helpful along my journey.
Oh, absolutely. Well,
I actually only really started to get into TA properly only after Pulse Chain launched, because the necessity increased dramatically because suddenly you've got so many different charts of all these different coins that are launching on Pulse Chain, and you're working on a full ecosystem now, not just one single coin.
Right.
So there was that necessity that was really driving that need.
Because it's a guess, right? Like without some sort of pattern to pay attention to make some sense of it, it's a language like anything else. It's a financial language, understanding the jargon, the lingo, and like if at the end of the day, crypto is an asset class that's in the financial sector. So without understanding at least the fundamentals of TA, it makes you more susceptible of getting lost in the weeds with where the good entries are, where the bad entries are, where the good exits are, where the bad exits are. Yep.
Even just the raw fundamentals of it, you know.
And to understand why it's doing what it's doing, you know, because like when, you know, the famous thing that everybody does that doesn't have any understanding of patterns and how these things fluctuate is when it's going up, they think it's going to go up forever. And when it's going down, they think it's going to zero. It's like, what I try to do with the TA I've shared with the community for years now is to show you, hey, yeah, we're going down, but we're likely to get some bounces here and here and here. And like, that's where these vertical lines come in. And all these vertical lines are showing you previous levels of support. So, so our previous all-time low on pHex, for example, was 0029, right? So that's the all-time low. You got to count every tick, and a wick is a tick. So that's the all-time low. So, and then up here we had another local low. Well, not local because it's been September of last year, but we got down to 0036. And then we had that run up in September.
No, well, basically the 0036 is the cycle low for Hex on Pulse.
Yeah, effectively. I think I would put more credence in that. Also, just generally in TA, it's like if you look at body candle closes, those carry more weight than a wick, right? Because it's more indicative of what's really happening on that.
Then again, like with the wick though, like the wick shows you like the full extent of how much it actually went down. Or how much it
went up. Exactly. Right. And it's like
even if like the wick doesn't count, it doesn't really have as much weight as the actual body.
As the body. Exactly. Yeah. And it's like I equate it to like
it still matters.
Yeah. It's like it's the leading and trailing indicator. It's like I equate it to like dipping your toe in the water before you decide how do you want to jump in there, right? And it's like, so when you get a big wick down, like we did get some of these wicks down, it's an indication that we could be going there to retest to see, do we really want to go there? And then that's what kind of happens. So, so with this one, it's like, as I was saying, it's like, we do have some confluence here with a couple of different measured moves, the measured move of the yellow channel, as well as the white channel that both line up with a new all-time low for pHex. I'm hoping if eHex starts to curl up and other things start to curl up, that this can all just be what's called a bear trap, which basically it looks like, hey, we're going lower. So people start to sell, and then boom, it reverses on you, and then you're stuck, right? You just lost out because you got caught in the bear trap, right? So that's why they call it that. Bull traps are similar. People think, oh man, here we go, we're taking off, and and they hold too long, and then it reverses. So typically, what you're going to want to look for is like if we come back up here and get to the white channel again, like around 0057, and we reject, then that would be an indication that we're likely going to continue lower. If we can get back in this channel, then that's an indication that we're going to start chopping into this channel. And then our next resistance is going to be at the top of that channel, which coincidentally is another psychological support as well as a horizontal support, which is right at a penny. So it'd be really nice to see this get turned around and get us back up to a penny on pHex. I remember when the big thing was on eHex, like, when do we get to a penny? Here we are again on pHex. So I would love to see that later this spring into the early summer. And, then we start marching our way back up. If we get back into this yellow channel and then we do the measured move of the yellow channel in late summer, early fall, maybe. And then if we follow it all the way out, like I was saying for Christmas, I got to kind of extend my stuff here a little bit to make this work. But yeah, so if we take this channel on out a little further and say, okay, we're going to go ahead and say that our breakout is December, then curiously, where does that get us for the measured move on that yellow channel? It gets us up to $1.80. And if eHex is at 52 cents, it's about a 3x, right? It's a 3-to-1 ratio. So here we go with confluences again. If we can get that all-time high on eHex, later this fall into the winter, and we're still at a 3-to-1 ratio, then you're looking at, $1.50 to $2 at pHex. So,
I think, and I think also, just before we wind up the stream, thanks again for putting out this TA. I think it's going to be really useful for everyone that's tuning in, just to see where everything is at with Hex, both Hexes and Bitcoin and Ethereum, and how it's fitting in with the macro as a whole as well. I think, there's a huge amount. Like I remain firmly bullish on the rest of 2025, even with a what appears to be evidently a left translated cycle. I still think that there's even if it gets some sort of double top in Bitcoin, or whether it's like a little bit breaking the previous all-time high to something a little bit slightly higher to maybe, I don't know, 120, 130, 140, 150. and it might even look a little bit bull trappy in the sort of the 140, 150.
Yep.
It might not even get to maybe the 200, and it'll
Right.
look, but it'll look like everyone at 140, 150 will be screaming, "Oh yeah, it's definitely going to 200, definitely going to 200."
Oh, people, dude, when that happens, people are going to say Bitcoin's going to $1 million. Wait, just wait for it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like easy $1 million. Like when it gets to 140, 150.
Yep. Exactly.
But anyway, so anyway, I want to thank everyone for stopping by. It's been a solid stream. Everyone in the comments, appreciate you as always. Toby, thanks again for jumping on and always sharing your positive vibes and your wisdom. I've been following you for a very long time, not just through Twitter, but through all the YouTube streams that you've been on over the journey. And I'm really looking forward to the continued craziness that's going to be playing out over the rest of this year.
It's going to get fun, man. It's like we're close. We're close. It's like I think we got a lot of green days ahead, and you know, if people have endured this long and they can hang in there, I think we're all going to make it, and we're gonna all get that victory lap, all the glory with Richard, you know, when the time comes. So I appreciate being on as a guest early into your podcasting career. So this has been super fun. Hopefully we can do it again sometime. And if I ever have my own show, I know I've been threatening that for years now. I would love to have you on as a guest as well. So thanks very much.
For sure, brother. T-Bread podcast over and out, and we'll see you on the next one.